If you are procrastinating in starting your online business in the knowledge commerce space, you're going to want to watch this entire interview. Today, I chat to Njeru Nthigah, who is a serial entrepreneur, and he has turned multiple six figures of online revenue just starting by helping one person. Njeru started by teaching leadership, then moving into the mindset space. Now he helps people implement their business strategies, creating frameworks and systems in order for them to see greater success. So my advice would be to take notes, watch all the way to the end, because Njeru drops nuggets of gold in this interview about how he's built his successful online coaching business. So welcome, Njeru. How are you? It's been a long time since we've seen each other. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Indeed, it has been quite a while. I think last time I was in Canada, right?
Yeah, it was. Oh, well, this was pre-COVID now. So this was Stu McLaren's Tribe Live. I think was the last time we chatted to each other.
Absolutely.
And we've bumped into each other in a few in-person conferences in 3D, I like to call it. Yes. And we've shared some good conversations over, quite a lot of old fashions from what I can imagine, or from what I can remember anyway. So thanks very much for your time. I know you're a sort of seasoned entrepreneur, so I'm really keen to sort of talk to you about your journey, what you've experienced with the online space. And basically the aim of this call is to try and get some lessons learned from you, or advice to anyone who is looking to start an online business or has started an online business and is like overwhelmed, sort of what they can focus on and what they can sort of ignore, to try and put their sort of mind at ease, but hopefully get some sort of best practice from your awesome journey. So I guess let's start with a little bit about what your background is and sort of how you got into doing anything online. What was your first online thing?
Oh my God. I have evolved over time.
Yeah.
I have evolved over time. So I basically first started as a leadership coach. My first real foray into speaking, coaching, and training is I got certified with a gentleman called John Maxwell. That was my big dream. Literally, when I moved to the US, I wanted to work with him. And it took me close to 9 years before he actually started doing certification. And that was a journey in itself. But spent my first initial years just studying and learning, and I became, you can look behind there, and I just fell in love with reading. Yeah. And so my first real foray into teaching and speaking was I got certified as a leadership coach. And ideally the concept was we got certified in his material, and we would go out and teach it in the marketplace, whether it was corporates, whether it was groups. And so I took that really and transformed that into an online coaching program. That was my real first step into that. In that same whole journey, I evolved into the next part that we included in that is I began teaching Think and Grow Rich. One of my mentors had taken me through the Think and Grow Rich book for almost 4 or 5 years. Wow. And that really for me was my very first product that I actually created income. I think I took about 2,000 or 3,000 people through that program.
Wow.
Regionally, I got on, and here's the beauty. So this was the simplicity. Think and Grow Rich is a public domain book. All I really took was what I had learned and what I had synthesized, and how I was able to communicate it. I took people through an 8-week program. Was $199 at the point in time. Then I took them through a year-long mentorship, which was $1,000. Mm-hmm. And really, that was my first step into anything online. And this is
what year was this?
8 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Easy. 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Taught that well. So I was in that sphere for a very long time. I taught a lot of leadership. I did a lot of coaching. I did a lot of speaking around that. And then I got interested, as time went on, I realized and understood the potential of the online space. But I had also grown, and I was beginning to get this itch of the fact that I was getting really good at teaching somebody else's product.
Yeah.
And the question that rose for me was, so what's my story? What's my contribution? If life was to come to an end today, what was that little thing that I gave back? It's said that, life is a gift to you, and how you live it, how well you live it, is a gift back to the world and to the universe, right?
Mm.
And so that became the new itch that got me on this journey of learning and understanding the online space, marketing, course creation. And so that was the new phase. And like they say, every mountaintop is the base of the next one, right?
Yeah.
So I got into a
Full
whole
summit.
phase, and that's how I really got started. And since then, I've just been evolving from one program to the other. And God, my first one is I remember I created the Leaders University, evolved into that. Then we came on and we created the Mindset University. Then we evolved that into where I am now,
Mm-hmm.
which is a Business Implementation Academy. So in all those journeys, I have, created courses, I have done coaching, I've had live events. I've held a couple of live events in New York City. So all of them have stretched me in every different way, have forced me to grow. I've had a membership in the process. So I've been at every juncture in this whole journey. Which actually, that whole journey is what culminates me to where I am today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible how you've sort of navigated your way through and just sort of built your own path. I remember we were at an event in California, and you were talking about what you've just produced. You're like, oh, I've just got this coaching program, and I've like sold thousands of copies, and helped thousands of people. Everyone was just like, how have you done this like so quickly and so easily? For us on the outside, it kind of looked like you had it all sorted out. You sort of knew exactly what you're doing. Sort of talk to that point. Were you okay with all of the tech? Did you know the strategy and how to sort of launch it? How did you get that sort of success?
Great question. I think the one thing that has worked for me, Tim, over time has been the fact that I'm not scared of failing.
Love it.
When we first spoke, I think the issue was I had created almost $100,000 with no email list and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I knew very well. And by the way, that was interesting in that particular example. I had created a course the day I launched it, because we had done it on a HTML platform. I hadn't even known Kajabi then. So it bombed the 2 days before, like
Yeah.
website went crazy. I got to find about Kajabi the next day.
Yeah.
I created a welcome a module and then enrolled people into that. And I was just very honest. I said, listen, I was ready for you guys 2 days ago. Didn't work out. I'm in this thing called Kajabi now.
Yeah.
And listen, we're going to have to work it out together. And they
Yeah.
gave me the grace.
Yeah.
And that's how we built it. So one is, and I think it's evolved. I'm also going to be very honest. I've always been willing to try. I've always been willing to stretch and to learn. And I also know very well that if you, first and foremost, if you are honest with people about where you are, people will understand. Number two, it takes time to learn. And that's going to, I'm going to share with you one of the lessons that I've learned out of this whole journey and even experiences like those. But it was one I was willing to learn, and I realized one thing is information is ubiquitous, man.
Yeah.
And I had spent years learning. I had bought every course you could think about. Some that I had started, some I was on 30%, some I had never opened, some I bought
Yeah.
because they gave me a gazillion of bonuses that I never opened.
Yeah.
But it was never the fact that I did not have information. What was lacking was my ability to take what I knew and be willing to go out there and try and then keep improving upon it. And
Yeah.
so even then, it's just been a philosophy that I have is if I think that there's a path, if there's a way that I know that I can serve. Now I've gotten better over time because I've gone through like what everybody else has gone through. There were so many ideas that were just rabbit holes, right? It was the next new fancy thing, and I chased it. It was a waste of time. But for the things that I knew that would really make a difference for me, I've always just been willing to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to go through this process and I'm going to keep learning. So it wasn't I've never, Tim, to this date, I cannot tell you that I can wake up and tell you that I have the most outstanding website. I don't think so. I don't think I've figured out the big funnels and all that stuff. I don't think so.
Yeah.
What I know is that I want to serve.
Yeah. That's very refreshing, because a lot of people do look at successful entrepreneurs and say, oh, they've got it all figured out. But I mean, I remember I was asking a question to a panel who are like 7-figure earners, and I was saying like, what I'm all about systems, like anything that saves you stress, time, energy, and money. I'm like what system do you use? Like, what do you have team? And I think it was Rick Mulready at the time. He was just like, look, if you scratch under the surface of any one of our businesses, you'll see a mess. Like, It's not like we have everything figured out. It's just that we've done a certain number of things well to actually get success. So it's focusing in on actually what do we want to, channel our efforts into. But I think with everything that there's going to be a certain amount of untidiness. They say start messy, and you'll, if you take action, you'll get the learnings that you need. So I think that's quite refreshing to hear, because anyone listening to this, I think it's like they don't want to start because they're not going to get it perfect, and you won't get it perfect. So
and the big lesson, I mean, there's two things. Bath is messy. Giving bath is messy.
Yeah.
Anything is messy. Think of your kitchen, man, before your meal. It's messy.
Exactly.
Creation is messy.
Sure.
So embrace that mess, because in that whole process exists learning.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think, sharing with the fact that we're talking about people who are coming to get started, there's a big difference being in business and being around business.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You can sit in the bleachers and watch the guys on the court get paid.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to choose where you want to sit. And looking fancy and fancy website, it's great. It's fantastic. But at the end of it all, are you making a difference? Are you adding value? And allow yourself, the opportunity to keep learning and growing. I mean, I am sure now, however many episodes you are on now, if you look at your first one, I'm sure you probably cringe.
Yeah, I did that recently, actually.
And imagine that if you hadn't done that first one, there would not be this episode.
Yeah.
Right? If you were waiting to get this good and have the right mic and have the right lighting and look the right, never would have been possible. So embrace the journey.
100%.
I think really the lesson is be willing to embrace the journey. Mm-hmm. And it's messy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. You mentioned about you start off with leadership and then went into sort of mindset and then implementation.
Sure.
Was that a path that you knew you wanted to go down, or it was like, were you talking about mindset from the results of the leadership product, and were you talking about implementation because actually people need help with these things and you sort of discovered as you went on?
Great question.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think and you've noticed that I've intentionally used the word evolved.
Of course.
A lot of people will say I pivoted in my business. I didn't pivot in my business.
Yeah.
I evolved, right?
Yeah.
And so everything that I have actually created and done, one, I needed it.
Yeah.
I grew through it, and I learned from those that I served. Because when I first originally, I'll give you an example. When I was doing leadership, I was one of the peer teaching partners, and we are talking about, at the point in time, now there's about 30,000 coaches. I was teaching in those groups, and I was having coaching calls with 5,000-6,000 people. And the constant problem that they were having is they couldn't get beyond their limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Yet we had
mindset,
the best material. I mean, you had a guy who's the world's #1 leadership guru giving you his material and saying, just go and repeat it, but they wouldn't seem to make money and they wouldn't break through. So that's some same evolution of how I came from that into mindset was my own evolution of listening to the clients that I was coaching,
Sure.
my own growth path. And as I have gone through in this whole process, we came from, you got to lead well. You got to lead yourself to lead others.
Mm-hmm.
You got to lead well to lead a company. Then I've grown to up the, well, listen, you've got to know how to think well, because everything is created twice, right?
Yeah.
It's first created in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
then it's created in the universe. You call it fourth.
Yeah.
Then you've got to learn how to overcome those barriers, whether they're limiting barriers from the past. And so that whole journey of me growing through this whole process, every stage I went to, I created something that I wanted to serve. And here's another lesson that I want you to do. For many people who are beginning to start, and I've noticed this team, is we want to come out and serve this, really fancy niche or thing. But always I've discovered in my case that my best client is the person who's undergoing what I just overcame.
Yeah.
And so I've always looked at what's the challenge that they're facing, and I'm creating the next solution. What's the challenge? And every solution you create creates another problem. And then you solve that one. So I've always figured that out. And so it's been an evolution. And so when we come now to implementation, it was nothing more than the realization of the fact that, there's not a shortage of coaches. You and I have been mentored by some of the best who are pulling 7, 8, 9 figures a year.
Yeah.
And you wonder, so why do I see you in this program and that program and here and there, and this year and next year we're still in the consumption? So I always say this, we're in an era where people are obese with information, but they're constipated when it comes to action.
I love it.
So it's just more. And in that more, it's never because they're not sure of what it is that they want to do. It's the limiting beliefs of the fact is, am I good enough?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or its comparison is, can I go and compete with team? Now, here's the fact is this, you are 100 episodes in. If I'm starting a YouTube video today, it would actually make no sense for me to come in and think that I can compete with you. Now, what I should do is I should be able to learn from you, because this is a lesson that I'll never forget. I think it was the same BBD we were with, and I was sitting with Stu McLaren, and he said this to me. He said most mistakes that most people do is they compare their back end with most people's front end.
Yeah.
I've been in business for 15 years.
Yeah.
You just came in.
Yeah.
And you were thinking that you can rock it like I do. You can't jump the years and lessons and journeys and progress. Now, what we have to do, and I think which is smart today for any new business person coming in, is find people like you who have been great and are successful at doing what I want to learn, and then you can help me solve that learning curve. So I can therefore lose those 2-3 years that you built this channel by you showing me, hey, these are the things I need to do. Now, most people think that I have to go through this whole thing. I don't need to. That's why I say you've got to learn how to invest wisely in who you learn from. So to me, it has been an evolution. And where we are today, it was nothing but an evolution of thinking, okay, it's not about lack of information. How can I help people really take what they know, simplify it so that they can ship it out, so that they can scale a business? It's that simple.
Yeah.
So today I work more with, I'm not necessarily doing a big time course. No, I'm not. But I'm just taking what you have to do. I take out everything that doesn't need to be in the play so that you can focus and learn and actually implement.
Yeah. That makes total sense to me. And there's so much to unpack there. I'll probably have to rewatch this again. But like you use the term like evolution rather than like pivot. And I myself have evolved time and time again. And I think that's really key. And it's sort of my best client is like me a year ago or like me 2 years ago, because all I've been doing is sharing this journey and what I've learned as much as possible, because I couldn't find that when I was starting to learn. I was like you, going to all these different events and piecing like the puzzle together. And you're right, like comparison is the thief of joy. Don't expect you're going to be doing a launch like Jeff Walker when he says like this is the way to launch, and he does a $10 million launch. Then you do like a $10 launch. It's an overnight sensation, 10 years in the making. That's the type of thing
That is very true.
that we see time and time again.
It's very true.
But yeah, like talk to us about what kind of systems or frameworks do you like to use, and what have you sort of learned that you can speak to someone who's looking at starting something or who has started something recently?
So I'll say this: frameworks for me, I say this: frameworks are what take ideas into products, into processes, and into profit.
I like it.
It's that simple. So if you really think about it, anybody today who's struggling in creating, hey, I've created this course, I don't have engagement, or I've enrolled these people, that nobody's engaging with my work, which ultimately leads to the fact that most of them are struggling with the retention, right? And if you're struggling with the retention, means you're actually struggling with revenue, right? So to me, what we've done is, one is I help people, and whether we want to call it, they've called it a success path, they've called it a pathway, they've called it a formula, they've called it a system, whatever it is. So what I do is I take what you want to solve, and how we do that is based on very simple things. One, we get very clear about who you serve. We get very clear about what problem you solve. We get very clear about what's the solution you have, and then we get clear about how we're going to create a pathway that shows your ideal client who has this particular problem that you actually have a solution to what it is that they're trying to solve. That is really the fundamental of a business. And when you can do that in a clear, simple, precise way, here's what happens. You create better engagement, you get better retention, because here's what we know. People, if you retain more of your clients, they buy from you more, right? And ultimately that leads to better revenue. So, we were talking about, just to give you a very good example, we were talking about what I call my learning. I call it my learning model of success, and I have it written here, so I didn't want to do it. When you asked me the question of how do I go out there, or how do I just go out and I launch a program, I literally crafted my own. It's 6 things. It's create, ship, results, learn, improve, recreate. What does that mean? Create something that makes a difference to people. Ship it out there so that you actually see whether it works. Get a result. Now, this is where most people get stuck. Why I call it a result or an outcome is this: in everything we do, we get a result and an outcome. Where most of us get stuck is what we label that outcome. If it looks like the way we want, what do we call it? Success. If it doesn't look like the way we want it, we call it failure. And now what we are now run by is not the actual outcome. What stops us is our story about the outcome. So it was a success, so yay, or it was a failure. Now I've got to go down this rabbit hole. But all it was an outcome. It was actually something that if you are smart enough to step back and see, okay, well, if it was a success, what could I do better so that I can make this work better? If it was not what I wanted, what do I need to change? That shift allows you to constantly be in that creative mode that allows you to keep growing. Then I say, that's where we talk about the next thing was learn. Learn from that experience and then improve upon it. And then go back to the same cycle and recreate it. That to me is a framework that I created, which I call my learning model of success, right? We go back to the 4 steps of my framework: design, details, description, and direction. Every great framework has a simple design. It's a triangle, it's a square, it's a circle, right? It has details of every stages that are there. It has a description of every specific stage. and it is directional. This is what you need to do. This is how we measure it. This is how we know you've accomplished it. If you can simply create your program in that direction, here's what you do. You'll constantly keep people moving towards their desired goal, and you'll constantly keep building your business. So I am obsessed with simplifying business at this stage of my life. I am about taking out all the fancy stuff. I'm about, I see clients who come in today, we were just working with a client, and they've spent a fortune creating funnels and this and that has been 7-8 months of working, spent over 106,000 from vendors, training, programs, high-end website, and in the last 2.5 years, they've made $1,000. So when we were sitting down and we started speaking, I said, so how's business? He told me, not good. I said, just tell me what it is. He says, oh, we spent 106,000 and we've only made 1,000. I said, it's worse. Because if we were to put all the time you've put into this, you are minus 300,000, right? But that little shift of the fact that is, have you really figured out the problem you solve? Do you really know you solve? And it's nice we get, we've bought into this idea of, I'm going to launch up a course and it's going to be the next big 6-7 figure thing that is done. And my real big thing is, I say people, your first year, I mean, if you're smart, 6 months, your first year, your goal is to really put down a system that gets you clients, a system that puts you in front of clients, and a system that delivers results. The first year is about reps.
Yeah.
The first year is not about getting rich. It's about getting good.
Yeah.
Because the day you can do that, the day you know how to ride a bicycle, you have a shot at going to the Olympics. But it doesn't matter whether you bought the most fancy bicycle, bought the most fanciest outfit, went and registered in the biggest group, and you don't know how to ride a bicycle, makes no difference. Right? Yeah, exactly. So learning to understand those processes, to me, is what's really excited me, and being able to help people to do simple 3 things. Simplify so that you can ship it so that you can improve it so that you can scale it. That's my favorite.
Love it. All that resonates with, everything you've just said resonates with me. I could probably talk to you for a long time. But let's go to, if someone's thinking, how do I get in front of people? What are the sort of successes, failures, whatever you want, whatever label you want to put on it? What are the results that you've seen over the past number of years to get yourself out there in the world? Because I've spoken to a lot of people and they say, like, the biggest challenge is, like, I can't put myself in front of my ideal prospect, or I can't get my message out there into the world. From your experience and whatever labels you want to use, like, what have you, what can you either recommend or not recommend people to do or to start with?
So number one, I think the first thing that I found, or even when I struggled with trying to get in front of people, was when first I tried to sell them what I wanted, not what they needed.
Yeah.
Okay. So the number one lesson is find out what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it makes no sense for me to come and try and sell you how to create a website if your number one focus is trying to get onto doing a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many PDFs and downloads and offers I can put in front of you. You're not my ideal client.
Yeah.
Right. So first and foremost is get very clear about what it is that they need. Because in business, or rather what I found out is that it's not about you. If you want to be in this business long enough, figure out how you can solve your problem for as many people as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as you get good at it, then you start beginning to determine that you want to solve it for as many people who can afford what you want. So number one is figure out what they need. Number two, there's a lot of this industry lingo, And my view is that whenever I see people using industry lingo, it's a camouflage of your own insecurity. Because if I came in and I said, listen, man, I'm really struggling to figure out how to do a YouTube channel. Now, you can come back and tell me that you are the biggest, this, that, the other, and everything else, nice and fancy. All I really need to do is I need help to get on a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So beginning to speak the language, be human, be as human as it is. Number 3 is be authentic. And what I mean by authentic is not be vulnerable. It's probably the word that I'm looking for, right? A lot of us first either never get started because we think that people want to learn from people who've done 7 figures. And the fact is this, is that if you are at 0 figure, anybody who's doing 7 figures, their level of thinking, knowledge, and skill is too far off that this is going to be here. So always understand this is, I remember one of my mentors saying to me, he says, one of the biggest challenges that most people face when it comes to mentoring is that you're hired as a supervisor and you want to be mentored by the chairman. Don't work. Find the supervisor right above you. Find the manager. Grow there and then find the next guy. So if you are at a certain level, don't posture to being this fancy thing. Be as authentic and say, listen, my goal is to help you get to your first 10,000, your first 20,000. There's going to be people in that audience, in that market, who truly will understand that, hey, this is the person to take me there. Now, we all know, they're not going to be a class. They will evolve to the next person. They'll evolve to the next person. And hopefully, as you evolve, you begin to, grow with them. So that's the other thing. Now, ultimately, I found that one of the things that has worked well for me in being able to be in front of people has been me sharing more of my challenges more than my successes. Because most people can relate to my challenges. I can tell you how many times I've screwed up. I can tell you how many times I've failed. And I'm going to be very honest. Even those evolutions that I've had in my business, some were forced. Some were flat out failures. So, and when I mean failures, to me, failure is not flat. It's some of them were just learning opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So to me, one of the best things that has worked for me is lead with where you are. Be as authentic as you are. Be very clear about what problem you're solving, and be clear. Offer people a solution, right? Hey, I can help you figure out this one small thing, and we'll do that. Big challenge is this: I'm good at helping people do email lists, but I'll never launch out because I think I need to show people how to create a whole business. No, there's a whole world, a whole market out there that just, if you could help them just build an effective email list, you probably own a 7-figure business.
Yeah.
So keeping it simple, show up as you are, be authentic, and genuinely just spend the time to figure out what's a problem you're solving. Don't try and I laugh around. I have a joke. I call it the Cinderella principle. Because here's what I see a lot of people do is I go and I create this humongous course that I think that I want. And then I run around town. Will this fit? It's before midnight. Will this fit before midnight? Come on, is this the right size? No, it's not. Is this fit? No, by the way, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a payment plan. No, it doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 months trial. And so I'm busy trying to sell you, versus if I took the time to figure out what's the problem that you have, and I clearly can show that I've developed a solution, you know what happens? I begin to enroll you. I don't have to sell you because there's a pathway. I've shown you a framework to the solution that you're seeking. So it's really, there's a lot of unlearning of what we think the online world is. And as we've said, I was seeing the other day, they're talking about that this is going to be a $315 billion industry. I mean, how much of that percentage do you need? What fraction of that do you need? So just aim for your things. Most of us, if you could get to your first 100 clients, just 100 clients. Most of us would live a fantastic life because 100 clients who paid you $1,000 is 100,000. Yep. If you work really hard and you went on and they paid you 5,000, if you found a way to solve something, well, 5,000, you just made $500,000. Right? So you don't have to be the biggest.
Yeah.
You just have to be small, and then let circumstances force you to grow because you've actually served that market. And I can tell you, I have clients with me today who started with me in leadership, have been with me in mindset, have been with me to the live events, have been with me into implementation, because we've grown through the journey. And they are still buying. They're still growing because
very cool.
I keep learning. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what are some sort of big takeaways if you were to speak to someone directly who's watching this, like they've resonated with things you've said, like what are the sort of, could you give like 1, 2, or 3 points to give them advice in if they wanted to package their knowledge, this whole online commerce industry, the creator economy, however you want to put it. It's a massive, massive industry, and it's growing. Sure. So this is why I'm saying, like, get on there now. A lot of traditional ways of teaching, like use YouTube, use podcasts, get a platform that you can actually, get your message out to the world. What are the sort of takeaways that you could, if you were to speak to someone today who is unsure of where to start or how to start? You're all about simplicity, which is great. I'm all about simplicity and systems. Like, what would you say to them if you were just to speak to them today in terms of your results over the last 8 years? What would you tell them?
Yeah. Start.
What would you tell them to avoid?
It's the first thing is start, right?
Yeah.
Start. I remember, and I wrote this quote here because I wanted to do this. And it says, this is by Jim Rohn. It says, don't let your learning lead you to knowledge. Let your learning lead you to action.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Right?
Start. This consumption stuff is, you need far less than you think you do to get started. Start. And then let your learning lead you to your next level of learning. So number 1, start.
Yeah.
Number 2, keep it simple. Simplify your business. Simplify your goals. I don't subscribe to the big, hairy, scary goals.
Mm-hmm.
Unattainable. I'm a big goal person. I subscribe to the next stretch goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the next thing? Because when you are first starting, the challenges you have financially are very different from when you are growing your business.
Absolutely.
And when you're scaling your business. So figure out what's the next goal? What's the next stretch goal that gives me the time and the freedom and the lifestyle that I'm looking for? And whether that is, if I made 100,000, then I can quit my 9 to 5 so I can focus on my business so that I can create it to 500,000. It's a whole different conversation from, I don't even have a program and my first goal is 500,000.
Yeah.
I'm dead in the water, right? So things like that. 3, find people who are doing what you want to do. Learn from people who have been successful at what you want to accomplish. And then manage that learning.
Mm-hmm.
Manage that learning. Let your learning equate to where you are. I'll give you an example. In Canada, we had an offer, and I'm not going to say who the email company was, CRM provider. And the offer was fantastic. But then I bought it. Tim, it's easier to get a divorce.
Oh, no.
But cost me almost $20,000.
Wow.
One mistake. Because it was so complex. It was, first and foremost, it was of value for people who had 200,000 emails. I had 300. What am I figuring all these things out? And then time wasted in the learning curve, time wasted financially, the frustration. And the greatest lesson was, if I had stuck with the provider I had, then it would have forced me to get to the next one. And at that point in time, I'd even have had the finances to get somebody to think about it without me having to learn the whole. So
Yeah.
let your learning match where you are. Be in the right environment. Always find. To me, it's a big deal. Find right mentors to help you grow. Number two, the other lesson is again, like I said, you don't need as much as you think you do, because we are caught up in this knowledge consumption. Like, I see people in one workshop after another, in one webinar after another webinar after another. And the truth of the matter is simplify. Really, if you get clear about what it is that you want to solve, and you're clear and you understand what is the problem that you're solving, figure out how to do that first.
Yeah.
You don't need all these things. You need one idea. It takes one idea to change your life, to change the lives of other people. And then, finally, I said this, always be a student. Always be a student. Other than that, I tell you this, there are great teachers like you, man. I think today, had I found somebody who had knowledge like you about Kajabi, you know how much time it would save me? Knowing that, I see you have workshops to help you do that. So be smart in finding people, right? Be smart in finding people, and then build relationships, because every other teacher that you and I have seen are always willing to help. Absolutely. If you can show that you're doing something.
Yeah.
If all your questions or your time, and you're taking the time, is because you want to consume more information, the doors become very slim.
Yeah.
Right? But it's easier for me to come to you and say, listen, man, I've tried my YouTube channel. I have 4, but I've bombed. Now you have something to help me improve, because I've shown that I took some certain action. So find people you can learn from, and always be in action. I wish I could tell you other resources are there. We're living in a world where today, with the resources, you could have a course in the next hour online if you wanted to. So it's no longer about tools. And then be sure. Also the other things on that aspect is quickly know what you're good at and outsource what you're not good at. Just find people who are good at. I remember days I would spend hours for trying to figure something here, and I go on to somewhere and I find a guy for $40 and he knocks it out in 20 minutes, and at the end of it all, it was of no long-term value for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wasted time. So value your time.
Valuing your time. I think everything you've said there has resonated with me. If it's resonating with anyone else listening or watching this, where can people go to reach out to you or find you online?
Facebook and Instagram is at Njeru Nthigah. My website, the Business Implementation Academy. Would love to, connect with you in any way. Love to serve you.
Cool. I'll link all those up to the notes for this call.
And I want to say something.
Yeah.
I want to urge something that I always say this, if you allow me.
Yeah.
The biggest lesson I have learned in the last couple of years, well, probably since COVID, is quit keeping score against yourself. Yeah. I did a lot of that on myself. If you're going to be in this game, the lesson I'm learning is you got to quit keeping score against yourself.
We're our own worst critics.
Yeah, I tell you. We don't need any help.
Yeah.
Love it.
Amazing.
Love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we'll bump into each other in another offline event soon. Yes. But yeah, I'll link all of those up, and thanks for your words of wisdom, and hopefully it'll help some people listening or watching to this in the future.
And as we wind this, I wanna honor you, man.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate, and it's been amazing to watch you evolve. I've seen you through the evolution from Amazon,
big evolutions,
all the way here.
Yeah.
And the one constant that is with you is you're always out there. You're building something. You're doing something. I'm watching you grow, which is, to me, is absolutely inspiring. And for anybody who wants to learn, I think there's no better thing than learning from somebody who's in the game. but most important is I love your heart to serve. You are an absolute giver. I see you giving in abundance, whether it's the emails we receive, whether it is, the stuff that you've got on YouTube, is that you do not hold back. And that to me is real measure of somebody who's very clear about the fact that they are here to make a difference in other people's lives. So I want to say thank you to you. And I want to say, not only do you inspire me, but you're such an example for all of us to see how to serve, how to learn, and how to keep growing. So thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Thanks.
Amazing. So yeah, thanks for those kind words, and thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm sure we'll end up chatting after I hit stop to this recording.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Drew.
Thank
you. See
you
you soon.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that's it. Hopefully you found value in Drew's story, his successes, his failures, or his results that he's actually put labels on, and how he continually evolves in his own business to try and get people results in their own business. If you want to reach out to Drew, I will put all of his socials up in the notes to this video. But if you still want a wider, bigger picture, I have put together a free workshop in everything that I implement in my online business. You can get access today by simply heading on over to timpeakman.com/workshop. It's a free on-demand workshop, so you can, as soon as you sign up, you can start watching and implement in your online business. But as Drew said, the number one piece of advice would just be to start, get some results, and then iterate from there. If you have any specific comments about this interview, leave them down below. But if not, I look forward to seeing you on the next video.